Now Shabbos.
One.
On. It says, the Shiva points out, but I think there's something we have to look a little deeper. It says over here that it's Acharai Moshe b'nei Aharon mikol vosam b'nei Hashem v'yamusu. Well, it should have said Acharai Moshe b'nei Aharon. What you got to tell me the reason is because of that they b'nei Zorah. So Shiva points out that the Torah keeps writing it. Every time they mention its death, they mention this point to teach you that there was no other Avera that they did. So, okay, it's fine. But the Avera they did is not an Avera b'nei Zorah, l'chayra. The Avera was the Memor Halochen Fnei Rabbim, or something like that. So maybe they did 50 like that. I don't know how many they did. You find out like Bonifan Nesorim, that why is he called him Bonifan Nesorim? It didn't start calling him Bonifan Nesorim. First he calls him, he said to Aharon and the laws of Yisoma, Bonov. He told him that you're not allowed to become Tomei, you're not allowed to do this, whatever it is there. When afterwards, when they don't want to eat the chatas, he calls them Bonov HaNesorim. Why? Because you guys are also Ma'ir Halacha Fnei Rabbim. So therefore you're only Bonov HaNesorim. You're really Chayiv Misa. It's not that you're not Chayiv Misa. That's what Moshe was telling you, and that's what Aharon told them. It's a different story altogether, whatever it is. But Moshe was upset with them because of it. So the chet is that your Ma'ir Halacha Fnei Rabbim. Why was that such a chet in their time? Could be because there was no Messiah in Mitzrayim. They had certain rules, and everybody darshan what they wanted to darshan. So therefore you had different degrees of frumkeit. And they're saying that everyone did what he thought was right, or whatever it is, and you had different inyanim. So therefore it wasn't one sheet. So Memele, they always did what they were used to doing, is passing their own shilas. So they pass their own shilas. So what do you want from them? And they've been doing that all my life. So what shall all of a sudden I should be battle daiti? So that's a problem. So that's why they landed up in the Memtesh Shari Tuma. Not that they actually were in the Memtesh Shari Tuma. We showed that they never murdered anybody. And they never were Mizana, right? So therefore, if anything, it's only Mem Zion. So why is it only Mem Tes? Elavos, the fact that you're Ma'ir Halacha Fnei Rabbim, that's Mem Tes. In other words, you just do whatever you want to do. So you'll end up in any trouble, whatever you can be. So it doesn't make a difference. It just didn't happen anything for it. But you're the ones that are making the problem. That's why they wanted to go back. And everything, they didn't believe that there was a thing that they must do in the thing, and that's the midbar, the being in the midbar. They learned that the thing is you must do. In other words, and Ma'ir Halacha Fnei Rabbim is a big thing, and what do you call it? So then he tells them about the Indian. I don't know, there's a ganze shaila really for Kohen Gadol can go in whenever he wants to go in, or at least Aharon could have gone in whenever he wanted to. He says, well, he can't come whenever he wants. If you do this avodah, then you can come in. But does it have to be on Yom Kippur? It doesn't say. Now, later on, there's a tzivui that once a year, the Kohen Gadol has to do this. But can I do it more often? Or let's say the Kohen Gadol maybe can't do it more often, but Aharon maybe could have done it more often. But he needs this avodah. You see, there's a difference sometimes that even though you're called equal, there's difference in rules. Let's say Shmuel is considered equal to Moshe and Aharon. It says that's what it says in Gemara. He was equal to those two. Why? Because it says in the Torah, Moshe, Aharon b'koyanav, Shmuel b'koyanav, Shmoy koyanav Hashem v'hu yanem. So you see, they all had the madrege of koyanav Hashem v'hu yanem. Right? So I said, but you see, there's a big difference. Moshe doesn't need anything, just being Moshe. Aharon b'koyanav. Aharon needed the kahuna to do it. Shmuel is b'koyanav Shmoy when they called him first. Does he have that madrege? But they all have this ability with that situation, that they have it. So in that part, it's still called equal. Okay, so he also could be all the I can come in every time I want, but I have to take it with this avodah. Okay. So anyway, we'll go into this thing then. He tells him he has to take a pow. On Yom Kippurim, we have, there's really 4 shtachavoyas, but 3 are by vidui. There's 2 viduyim al apar, and 1 vidui on the soya. And that's what we do, and we bow down at that time. And the 2 are on the par, as we'll see here, it says over here twice, v'chiper ba'adoi v'ad beisai. Says it right in the beginning over here, Pasuk Vav, and the second time it has it in Pasuk Yud Aleph. So we don't have it like that. The Gemara says Beisai zu ishtay. His wife. In the Marza it says v'chipa ba'adoi v'ad ishtoi and v'chipa ba'adoi v'ad echav hakoyanim. So they broke it up already into the 2 people, but they're telling you exactly who we're talking about. But in the Torah it says, what he called. So in other words, he made 2 different viduim. One was right away, and one he did just before the shrika. And the thing is over there. And the shaila is why they special for his wife, and when there's no nepotism in Klal Yisrael, that's not the point. They're not saying that my wife, I take care of her better than everybody else. You're the Kohen Gadol, you're in charge of everybody in Klal Yisrael, so therefore you're going to make sure everybody gets through, not only your wife, right, or your friends, right? So why they get a different thing? So this is why I think is shot, and I use it usually for Shalom Bayis, but Huadin, it applies to friends and stuff. The Gemara has imaginary conversations between the Kohen Gadol and God, and when he's in the Kodesh Kedoshim. You have Hashem Tzaddik, you have other ones. So, what happened is this, or I'm giving you a scenario. The Kohen Gadol is in the Kodesh Kedoshim, and the Benson comes and says, Kohen Gadol, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. So, I came to Mechapa for Klal Yisrael. Okay, how long are you in office? I just got elected. Okay, just got elected. Give him. No shot. Comes back next year. Kohen Gadol, what are you doing here? I came to ask forgiveness for Klal Yisrael. Weren't you here last year? Yeah, I was here last year, but they fell down. They were forgiven. I said they did it again. So, okay, forgive it. Comes the 3rd year. What are you Kohen Gadol, what are you doing here? I'm asking here to ask forgiveness for Klal Yisrael. You know, you guys always do the same thing. You keep doing the Averis, then you ask me to forgive you. I forgive you, and then you do the Aver again. I don't think I want to forgive you anymore. Finished. Right? And obviously, that's not what we want to do, and there's nothing there. So the Beniman says to us, like, but, so he says, I'll tell you what, if you treat your wife and friends like that, I'll be Michael Klai. So in other words, what happens, you have the most fights you have with your wife, right? And there's nothing wrong with having fights with a wife. To me, she's the Eza Kenegday. So obviously you're going to have fights with your wife. I mean, there's no question about it. But the question is, you have fight with your chavrusa too. And I don't think the less temper with your chavrusa than you have with your wife. I mean, you don't use actual hands and stuff, but I believe sometimes that you want to put the guy through the wall and the thing over there, because how could you not understand such a person as Shlomo that I'm telling you? I mean, stuff like that, right? Elavos, as soon as you say it's lunchtime, so let's go. They're talking like that. Well, yeah, by the way, what are you doing there? You got maybe $50 on you, and no question about it. Your buddies, and well, you don't remember you were just fighting, and you don't think when you come back after lunch you're going to be back in the same fight. You're not going to be fighting the same fight. Of course you're going to be back in the same fight. So why are you so happy with each other? It's not personal. It has nothing to do with personal. I'm like looking famous. So if you actually can make all the arguments that way, it would be a very good thing. The trouble is, I think it would be very hard to do it. In other words, without what he called. Let's say, I give you the push it, the way of doing it would be, let's say, what's the tachlis of money? To save it or to spend it? That's a debate. The wife holds it to spend it, the husband holds it to save. So what he called, so have a debate about it. Well, nothing to get angry about. The fact that you spent every penny you have and you haven't got any more food in the house, that's not negated anything. It's a theory, it's a cheetah. Okay, so what are you getting upset about? Some of us sometimes it gets a little hot under the collar, and we shouldn't say. You insulted, you made a statement, let's make it whatever the Metzias is, right? So you say, if you've been doing this every time you do it, and you keep asking me to forgive you, and then you do it again. Right? So I don't want to forgive you anymore. You never change. You're always doing the same thing. If you have the same cheshbon like that, how come you're asking God to forgive you every year for the same averos? All of us, somehow you feel, I could ask. Why? Because you feel, I tried to be better. I failed maybe, but I tried to be better. So maybe the husband also tried to be better. Maybe the wife also tried to be better. So therefore, I lasted, I tell you what was bothering him, you bite your nails. Okay, I don't like the way you bite your nails. Okay, I'm going to stop. For a week he stopped. And then something came up and he did all his nails off again. Right? But he stopped it. He did something. It was a week, not forever. Next time I'll try to get 8 days, 10 days, 12 days, whatever it'll be. Each time I'll get a little more. And then that way I'll do it. And for God, you're willing to ask Him. So therefore you have to treat your friends like that. That's the main thing. So the words of that you never change, you always do the same things are treifel words. Okay, that's the power.
So how does that explain why he needs to have a separate carbon for his wife and for Acharai?
I'm sorry?
How does that explain why he needs a separate carbon to be mechaper for his wife and for the
No,
Kedoshim?
it was the same carbon. It's separate vidu.
So why is it need a separate?
It's just the point of to understand. Some people treat their wife talking like that, and other people, my chavrussas are my buddies. and the stuff there. So to get the thing, my wife is a necessity. It has nothing to do with my body. And you have something like that, in life, On one hand, the further you're friends with the wife, maybe you're more makatoif to her. I'm living with a stranger in my house, and she feeds me all the time. I'm going to thank you every time for making supper for me. If a buddy's living at the same time, you say thank you all the time. Otherwise you did, but you don't. Right? But with your wife, like I said, my husband always says thank you. It's very nice. I don't think I can't say never said thank you. When I said, I don't think it was every day you'd say thank you. That's the deal. I mean, you're taking care of everything. We'll have to thank you for all the work she puts in. Everything that you have to sit and learn, that she's making the money. You have to thank her for everything. I mean, you get tired of thanking her like that. You don't feel like you want to own her that much anyway. So it means it's not really gonna say that. But Maisa, you got to realize what it is. Then you have the soya. The soya, they bring up, you're supposed to have two. And two that look alike. Now, when they say look alike, means look alike. Now, there's a certain amount, the size. That's probably easier to find two that look alike. Then you have color. So if you have black, white, it's also good, everything there. But usually they got black and white. So you look for as much that they look alike as possible. They got a patch on the ear, a black patch on the eyes, get it to do that patch on the eyes, whatever it is. Obviously, but they should look alike. And then you throw a geiro. If they look alike, what difference to make which one's on the right? They look alike anyway, what difference to make? So the idea is, the Beniman says, the point of the geiro, there's only two, no great choices here. The thing that they're trying to tell us is that you have to know what Klal Yisrael is. You're the teacher of Klal Yisrael. You're the mechanech of Klal Yisrael. You have to know the madrega of Klal Yisrael. So a normal person, you take a look, let's say, you have a yeshiva, you have an asifa of yeshivas, and we'll talk about from the top to the bottom, all different kinds of yeshivas, right? And learners, and more less learners, more learners. Go to school, they don't go to school, right? Some work. They all wearing black hats and black suits. And they all look the same. So you should look at this. So do you know a difference between the two? You know the difference. You talk to the guy, maybe you'll learn the difference. But like this, you don't know by looking at them. So he's telling you, they all look the same. So it's my job to tell you what madrega they are in. So if the soya al Hashem comes out on the right, that means Klal Yisrael's and madrega that they only do averes while they're looking to be grow. In other words, a guy who stays away from the Mikdash, he's not going to have a shayla of Tumas Mikdash Kedoshim, right? I don't go, right? Who has a shayla of Tumas Mikdash Kedoshim? Somebody who goes to the Beis HaMikdash. So now, did I come tell me? Did I take this? I do that. All of a sudden, he's got a lot of sveikas, right? So the fact that he wants to grow makes him sveikas. If he didn't want to grow, he wouldn't have any problems. That guy is a heicha madrega. And that the Rebbeinu Shalom wants to show kapora for that guy. He wants to give him kapora, so he has all the Rosh Chodeshim, all the Yom Tovim, and Yom Kippur. Hashem. And then you have Averas, which you call a guy a Shegitz for. In other words, all the other 612 Averas. You eat Trafas, you're a Shegitz. You don't daven, you don't take Krishma in the morning, you're a Shegitz. You don't do this, you're a Shabbos, you're a Shegitz. Everything you're a Shegitz, right? So everybody, so 612 mitzvahs you're a Shegitz, one mitzvah you're a tzaddik that's trying to grow. Okay, so that would be pshat when he comes out on the right side, Lazazel, that means the madrig of Klal Yisrael, what's the right size, but the right side, and that would be Lazazel. Now, when I'm at that there, first of all, I'm opening yeshivas. What do I got to teach? If you tell me what madrig we're still eating tafels, we're still eating Chol Shabbos, you got to teach them basics. You can't just give them just big stuff. If on the other hand, the Tumas Migdash Kedoshim, that's all there is so we got to be very intricate in how we're teaching you and whatever we're teaching you. So it's a different chinuch that we have. That's the reason why there's a goyra. Okay, even though it's just two. And you see Acharai in the Hakrova, how you treated them afterwards. It says over here, right after Sheni. And it's not right after, but it's right after. No, it's right before Sheni. Sorry, right before Sheni, the last pasuk. I'd say nobody should be there. V'chipa ba'adoi u'ba'ad beisai u'ba'ad kol kahal Yisrael. So it seems a very high terminology. Kol kahal Yisrael. Okay. Well, that's the Shor Hashem. And the thing there. Later on, Imachapa for the Koyam Adlazozel, so this is the lesson he uses there. V'rochas b'sor b'mayim mokim kodesh, v'lovesh v'godov, v'yotzavos v'savos v'savos ha'om, v'chiper ba'adoi u'ba'ad ha'om. Whenever the Torah uses a lashon ha'om, it's a low level. And the thing over there. So therefore, it shows you the difference. Here we're talking about the 612, the other Avedas, that's your what do you call it? Your nom. On the other hand, when you're Halik, you mention your Kahal Yisrael. And you think over there. Okay. And all the tumas that you have. And the Bench made it once a year. In other words, that the Bench made it that we have a union of Yom Kippurim. And Yom Kippurim became Yom Kippurim because that's the day that 40 days, the third 40 days ended. Was with them, and he got the Beis and gave him the second luchos, and then the thing is, so that day remained for all time a day for forgiveness. So the Beis forgives us on that day, and there's certain things that the Yom Tov itself forgives for, and whatever it is, the kalas, whatever they mean kalas, or whatever it is, it's for certain ones. And certain things, it just helps, and for other things. But yeah. Then he talks about the end of Shchut Echutz. Okay. Now, Shchut Echutz is a public avera. It's chorus, right? A guy who wants to bring Shchut Echutz, somebody wants to make a korban, right? Whatever it is, he wants to do a korban here, but he wants to do a korban. That's the main thing. He wants to get closer to God. And so he's Isaac in religion, he's a religious guy. So why is there din of shutafut? So the Torah is telling you that there's a certain discipline that a person needs. You want to live like a Torah-tic yid, or something like that. It's not just okay, I'm from. There's a certain discipline that you have to come into, and that you have to put it down that what makes you full. Okay, so that's the case. Yeah. So you can't just bring a korban. A person has to first grow to the point of being able to bring a korban. In other words, it's not just, I got an extra cow, okay, shechted, who cares? And now, it's something that you're coming to say, vidu, this forgiveness, I'm not worried for this, I can't do this, whatever it is, you're not going to do it. Okay, so this is, and sometimes you have the person, I can't wait. I mean, it's chorus. You're from a guy, you want to do something for God, and yet he's going to do something that's going to give you chorus. That doesn't make sense. God doesn't want it, right? But I can't wait. I can't wait. And in that case, you see, I wanted to time it in the Pshat, I think we discussed it in Parshas Yisrael, that it says that you want, when the reason they solve about Ma'alis HaMizbechi is because you shouldn't see Elva. You don't see the Elva anyway, I got a pair of pants on. Elva is to separate the legs, big deal. I mean, if it's covered, what's the difference? Elvos. The shaila is, I'm not talking about the physical elva. That's not what it means. It means if you jump in frumkeit, instead of going up slow madrege, you appear differently. In other words, a guy who grows, who becomes a mentor, he learns, and this will become a fruma guy. Mamish, you can see it as he goes and as he grows. Right? But about Tshuva, let's say, that he wants to get there fast. He's missing all the years that he didn't do nothing. So he wants to get there fast. So the guy tells him, oh, you should wear payas. Okay? I'm watching these guys that got these long payas. Okay? Didn't tell me about cutting off my chup. You know what I mean? Didn't tell me to take off my rings. And what about the blues in the back, the ponytail I got? Didn't tell me anything about that either. He just telling me that. So therefore, you'll see sometimes a guy with longer payas, and he has a ponytail, and he has earrings in his ears, and he has what he call, because he's so tumult in what it takes to become what's called a fumiyad. And it's not that he's anything bad about him. It's just that he doesn't get it. And he looks silly. You look like you feel this is supposed to be a hirchamat rege, and look at you over here. So like you're looking silly, and therefore because you look silly, you're embarrassing yourself. That's your avosra. Okay. could be that there's reasons why it says by two korbanos, it says by the Oila and by the Shlomim. The question which lesson is more important and why being the Beis Hamikdash, maybe something should be all over, be a good thing. So it's saying on things we can dingzach and say this is more important, then we make sure you need a posik for each one. You can't do it either one in there. And Taki, you see, Taki by the Malchus Yehuda, they were only able to get rid of it in 2 generations. Shiur and Yoshiur's time. Otherwise, of Shlima and David also. Yeah, blood. Blood has tachlis of being makib on the mizbeach. So you have 2 different din. You have a din of let's say behemoths that are nechsher on the mizbeach. So those animals you do not need to make kiswada. Now, with you shech the behemoth, you want to eat it, the blood's pouring on the floor, it's not in there. There's a tachlis for that blood, a tachlis for the meat. So we're not using the blood now, we're not making korbanos, so it goes to the floor. In there. On a behemoth, a chaya, and a bird. And so those you shechting, and the blood has no other use because that's one of his beach either. So we don't eat it for something like that. So like it's put as a different madrege that we cover it. We get that it doesn't exist. That way, the only thing that we're mutter in is the meat. That's the point. You have to make that havdalah, but you can't eat the blood. So that comes by kiswa adam. I'm sorry?
What about Terem of Neyana? Terem of
I got
Neyana.
the Maliki, Akasha, he'll say that either that's not called shrita or whatever, but they do make shrita on it. So there's or at least you do with you spritz it with the whole thing. And saying it's a different kind of spritzing. I don't know. I can't answer that exactly. Or the bottle. Yeah. And the ikir is the dam is what he called alot shlosh bechena kamoyim. So I want to tell you an Indian the Kazakh on this. Yeah. I have a different pshat now, but this is the Shivish pshat when we're learning Chulun. And Chulun it talks about Achov, when they came to Achov, Yeshofot came to eat by Achov, so he came to eat there. Said, yes, how would they allowed to eat the meat? Achov never ever deserved. So he said, it was it, what's his name? Evadia was the sheikhet. So the Gemara asked, what about drinking the wine? Isn't it? You can't. So it says the Kedem Hagzera. Let's look. So Shiva asked the Kasha, what's Kedem Hagzera? They're not talking about people that didn't have a desire, a goy. So a goy, even if he doesn't do laved zor, you're not allowed to drink his wine, right? But if I know he's chash that he's doing it for Avodah Zarah, so for sure you're not allowed to drink his wine. So why was that mutter? So he said, he said that the Indian, why do goyim, why this, he gave a sword this way, why is there a sword of Nisach HaYayin? Why is this issue of Stam Yenum? Okay, Stam Yenum, they wanted, the first one has nothing to do with kashrus. It has to do with they didn't want you to eat, to drink wine with a goy together. I shouldn't get too buddy, so you shouldn't marry him, whatever it is. So therefore, we don't want you in the same bars with them and stuff like that. So, yeah, what does a goy do? Why everyone's a from a goy? Every bottle of wine around, they can have to menasach it. It don't make any sense. It's so religious. It don't make any. So he said, they believe you're holy because you eat holy. You see this in the Payal, by the communion, by the Catholics. You eat the matzah, you eat the wine, and that's the flesh and blood of Yoshke, and that makes you holy. You became holy by doing communion. Okay, we don't. You'll see, we eat kochim also, but it's not. We don't become holy because we're eating kochim. We're becoming holy because we're doing mitzvahs of eating kochim. That's why we're doing. But all than any mitzvah, and if it wasn't kochim, you don't get holy. Whatever it is. So the guy who believes in eating drinking, so the easiest way to become holy is to become a shikah. And the thing though, I'm taking a bottle of wine, I make it holy, and I'm going to drink it down, and now I'm holy, and now I'm drunk also. So that's the easiest way of becoming a shikah. Okay. Or ba'achav did Avodah Zarah like a Jew. That's what let's talk about what is the Avodah Zarah of there. I'm not too sure, so I'm not going to talk about that now. But the Avodah Zarah, but that nice he did like a Jew, which is Jew is alor tishpechenu kamayim. In other words, we make nisuch hayayin. It's a thing there. It's not something you put in your stomach. So if you use it for Avodah Zarah, he wouldn't eat it. You know, what's the point of that? What stuff he's eating is the stuff that's plain chulin. So therefore you were able to drink it. But he said, Avodah Zarah, there was no such thing as Gzeira. Okay, okay. Then he says, yes, the kasha v'shiva. It says, you shouldn't do like the Maisvel's Mitzrayim that you left, and you shouldn't do like the Maisvel's Canaan that you're coming to. What about lesser goyish, I guess? Like the mice of America can do. I mean, whatever the mice of America is. But if we do that's okay. It's just this Mitzrayim and the thing that the biggest Rishayim of the world you can't do. The thing doesn't. So he said you learn from here that there's no such thing as madregas in Ra. In other words, he isn't so bad. So therefore, you don't have to worry about staying with him. The other guy, he's terrible, so don't go with him. But with that guy, it's okay. Everyone, once you start on the way down, it keeps going. That's the point. So therefore, you can't stay. So if you don't want to get to Canaan, and what he calls, you don't start at all. You stay away from everybody. That's the point. Because only once you're starting on the way, it's just a question of madrega, and you'll get there. I mean, it's not a point. That's the lesson. Okay. And then he talks about the different things. He said the Isurim don't tell us the Onshim. The Onshim will be in Parshas. I forgot we learned in Parshas too. Something. Okay. And they talk about the different averas that you have. And the different averas, some more chomer than others and something. But the Acharai, why shouldn't they all be the same? And what do you have to tell me? I think this, that there's certain averas that the Rebbeinu Shalom does because you have to know your place in a family. It doesn't make a difference. If a guy is Boal Isha Bita, his wife and his mother-in-law, let's say. So what is the biggest insult that he made to his wife? He made her mother a competitor to her. That means she's equal to him, it's a bezoyan. And I think that's a point that you to live with the father's wife. That means you're timing that you're equal to your father. It's not just a point that I'm living with my father's wife, which is Nisa Elva, but it's also something that shows the chutzpah that I have, that I don't have my father's nothing, because he's I'm not going to do the same thing. Okay. And then he goes through the whole thing over here, and he's saying, what's the end over there? Yeah, okay. We start Kedoshim, okay. There's a whole bunch of mitzvahs right away in the beginning, and there's an inyan of Kedoshim to you. Kedoshim to you, what's called Kedoshim? You're holy. What's holy mean? So holy means you're Polish. If you're separated, you don't put. Where do you see this? If you ask a goy, who's a holy man? What would they answer you? Monk. Right? Why monk? Because he sleeps on a cot. He wears shvel begodim, hair shirts, and they don't get married. So this is what he called. So there's a point of, so Peter Capricious is an Indian of holiness, that we see. I think that we have a step more than that. Okay. And it's something we have to think about, what we're supposed to do with the mitzvahs. Better rayas, at the moment I can't think of it. But I remember having better eyes. But let's talk about what I mean. We make it the Birkas Eilson is Hamikara Shama Yisrael They Chupa B'Kedoshim. Right? You become holy through Chupin Kedoshim. What does Chupin Kedoshim make me holier than anything else? Like this, I'm not holy. Right? But if I do Chupin Kedoshim, then all of a sudden I'm holy. So the reason is, by the Goyim, everybody's mutter to everybody, and whatever it is there, and so it's up to you with whatever it is. But there's no Indian of being miyached somebody specific for yourself. By us, there's an Indian, your wife, and only your wife. What do we gain with that? Two things you gain. One is that you polish from Kol Olam, but I also make it that I'm close to my wife. Like I said, Shlima Melech has over me that he had 1,000 wives. He understood beauty more than I'll understand. So he could write Shir HaShirim and compared a woman to the Bein Shalom and understanding the beauty on it, because he can understand the beauty. I don't have that hasog of beauty. I think that. But I had a wife, and he didn't have a wife. In other words, I had a wife that I had things, I talked with her, I discussed things with her, whatever it is there, whatever it is, who is he speaking to when he has a problem? Which one of the 1,000 are there? You don't speak with 1,000 people. You have to speak with 1,000 people, you don't get to know any of them. So how do you know which one you have? So that's the differences. So this, what I want to tell you that by us, we use kedusha, not only the fact that we do not hefker to take everything from other ways, but it gives us the chance to take ahava to that and use it to one person, and therefore the sheikh ahava, that we can understand love. Well, I think that he can't understand love. By him, it's only taiva, it's not love. You know what I'm saying there? Because he's dealing with 1,000 people. He has no shaykhs to them and whatever. So the shaykh is just, he wants to live with them. So that's taiva, that's not love. But we're talking about ahava, with the point that I care about you and so on like that you get because you only have whatever ahava you have, or the closeness the Beisham made with the derech that he made, the relationships that exist between husband and wife. He only made it to one person, so that thing it means a tremendous ahava in the thing over there, because this is the only person that can do this for me, and there's no one else in the world in the world. So b'meila, there's a different relationship that you have with that person in the thing there, and that's what the Beisham wants. In other words, that not only that you polish for something, but what you do eat is just that this is, it's like, so we only eat a steak, let's say, by goy, let's say, they want to eat something good, right? I don't know what's good, so I can't answer you. Shellfish, I would think, yeah. And the lobsters, I probably would say the same thing about, when you ask a goy, a lobster is fantastic. They pay more for lobster than they do for steak. So therefore, what are you going to do? Like that? Even some like shellfish, and they like the whatever the other one is, shrimp and stuff like that. Okay, let's stay. But they eat the second half of the behemoth. By us, what's a good steak? A good rib steak, right? If you have a good, what do you call it, prime rib, that's all the rib, that's all it is. What's about the second half of the behemoth? Oh, we don't eat that, right? So but they trade. But you don't have sirloin. You know what a sirloin even tastes like? And again, then, do you know what a T-bone tastes like? We have no shaykhs to these things, right? So we don't even play games with it. The sirloin is the better steak than what he thought. Right? How do I know this? I don't really know that. Because in Eretz Yisrael, there's a restaurant, a Swedish restaurant, that they trade the Acharai behema. So they learn to trade it, so they eat it. So what happens, they eat the sirloin. And they said they never ate such meat like that. The softness of it, the taste of it, whatever it is. We don't eat it because of the good anasha. Or if we have ground sirloin, because it falls apart, right? By trebling, you get pieces. But the pieces, you can make small little steaks also, you know. But usually you don't. That's what I'm saying. So it's ground sirloin. But basically, it's not sirloin. And it's, when they say ground sirloin, in a fancy restaurant, they put the word ground sirloin. I remember that. And it's not ground sirloin, it's chopped meat. And it's chuck and not sirloin. Sirloin is a different type of meat. It's a different thing. And there's certain things that is the epitome of the taste. So there's always that seeking of something, a new experience of what you can eat. On the other hand, a guy who's a former guy, and they think that he doesn't have any hasagis of that. He is very limited in what he can appreciate and enjoy. So mamela, that limitation in itself makes a big thing, a big difference. Since the only thing is the rib steak is all that we have. That's almost choshif the zach. So we play around with it. Now, on the other hand, have the guy you have that he was told, this guy at the airline, He was talking about kosher meals he was giving out, he didn't know that they're so good. So he says, once you eat it, you'll find out that kosher is pretty good. Now, there's a big difference in our meat and their meat, simply because we kosher our meat. We don't have bloody meat. By them, they don't kosher meat, so their meat is very bloody. So it's also less salty than our meat, because our meat, to get the blood out, you have to put in salt. So the most meat is saltier. So it's a different type of meat. It's a different type of eating. It's a different thing. All of these things make us, the fact that we don't make such a big deal out of many things. It's not a big deal. And I think, that's all you have, so what do you do? So everybody has that. So yichus, you know what I mean? But other by goyim, we only eat the top stuff, we don't eat the bottom stuff and stuff like that. By us, there is no big choices involved. Just, I guess one more, I'm going to skip here. Okay, ends off. He ends off like this: "V'yisam li Kedoshim, ki kodesh ani, Hashem v'avt l'asman amim lios li." So Rashi, lios li, im atem amuvdolin mehem. If you separate yourself from the goyim, harei atem shali, you belong to me. V'im lav, if you don't separate yourself from them, harei atem shel Nebuchadnezzar v'chaverov. You belong to Nebuchadnezzar and his friends. Yeah. Does this make any sense? We don't even know about Nebuchadnezzar at all. We picking up on Nebuchadnezzar for. I mean, what shaykhs with Nebuchadnezzar and the Chumash? But to Tayin Benishim, I think, is telling us the biggest thought here. And we see that it's emes. That Jews are made to serve. You have a choice. You can serve me, you can serve humanity. Okay. Now, being, let's say, Yosef was an Eved, right? It was Eved Pari. But it was a good job, right? He was the second in command, right? He had a lot of money. He enjoyed himself, right? There's a thing there. What's wrong with it? But I'm an Eved. That's the difference. And Daniel, they were Nebuchadnezzar's avodim, right? But he rose in the Malchus. And then he was a big noble, and stuff like that. He had money, he had things, and all of them were like that. Oh, but you're an Eved. So what's your purpose? To serve humanity. In other words, they ran his government, they ran his things, and so on. What does that negate to? Who are the scientists, who are the doctors, who are the law, the thing, the Jew? Right? So they're the ones that serve humanity. What do those guys do? They make it healthier, they make more things you can use, they make the things often, so humanity grows because of it. So we serve humanity. No, we're not serving ourselves, we make money, that's true. But the Ikatachlis is for humanity. That's the point. So in other words, so you have a choice. You want to serve Hashem, you can serve humanity. And that's what he's telling me.
But obviously Daniel did both. That's not to say that Daniel did something wrong.
No, I'm not saying he did something wrong.
I'm saying, but
he's an Eved.
Are free. We're
no,
Hashem.
but they told him he had a job to do.
Okay.
He has to run the government. That's his job. Now, it's very nice. Who runs the government here?
If the VAR
Jews.
Right.
Who runs the banks? Jews.
Fine.
Who runs anything? The Jews.
So, but the part is that when you don't serve Hashem, you're going to end up serving anyway.
Right.
So, but it's possible to serve both.
Huh?
It's possible to serve
Yeah,
both.
they could do serving Hashem by making the world better for them, but to be a Torah-tic thing. It's not going to make the internet. It's going to make the shas on the internet. It's not going to have any shaykhs with the internet. See, that's the point. But it means that you serve humanity. It's a point that we have to understand. Now you'll say, what's been the thing? So my wife used to always tell me a joke. It wasn't a joke, but there was wise guy kids, in that time. They would walk over to a cop and they'd say, "Are you a public servant?" And the cop would say, "Yes." He said, "Can you please get me a glass of water?" And stuff like that. So what was it, the cuteness of it? They were cute. They had the guts to walk over to the cop. That's the only thing that was the cuteness. They didn't get the glass of water, that I can tell you. They didn't get the glass of water. But Lamaisa, so being a servant doesn't necessarily mean you're on the bottom. But it means that my tachlis of life is not for myself. It's not something that I go on vacation all the time. The thing over there, I'm doing something for the world. The thing over there. And that's the big zachar. We sit and learn, or if you want, you can go and do things yourself, but not one on vacation. I don't even understand what the good of it is. And it could be that maybe the Benshon is making it easier for us. Once upon a time, we were called the Wandering Jew, right? I mean, somehow there's a mile to stay in one place, right? That was what the Yichel called me, a Wandering Jew, right? But now, ask anybody that has a couple of bucks in his pocket, not talking about millionaires, but a couple of bucks. That he's got a house in the city, he's got a house in the mountains, he's got a house in Florida, and he got an apartment house himself. And that's a normal person, right? They're talking about no billionaire, right? So I don't want to be in one place. I go here for the summer, I go here for the winter, I go here for the fall, right? I go all over the world. I don't want to be in one place. So you want to be in Gullus? Is that what you want to be? That's not Gullus, that's freedom. Yeah. And what is it according to what it used to be? Gullus. Where did we live? You saw our Atmosim was what? All our families live in this little piece of land they gave us. I mean, maybe it was a big piece of land, but we're all in the same place. The whole family, cousins, great cousins, everybody knows everybody else. You don't even know your relatives anymore. I'm sorry? I don't hear. Oh, from the phone. What did you say? I didn't hear. I'm sorry.
They weren't talking to the rabbi.
Oh, I'm talking. Okay. So you don't even have your relatives. Why? Because I live in New York, you live in Chicago, he lives there. You see yourself maybe once in a while. What do you think, Dochten? You lived in the same shtetl in Europe, so you know who your cousins were, you know what he calls for. So I mean, it was a different relationship. Now you don't have no shaykhs with anybody. Be your family, so what's my family? I don't even know them, so what am I going to do with my family? There's any of the Ben Goyal is a chayichas. You see, what's the name? Said to Rus, Nomi, that he's Ben Goyaleno. Like that, he's a relative. He say it's something. I mean, the thing doesn't. You don't even invite him to the weddings anymore. In my time, I remember the thing was that first cousins and their children were automatically invited to every simcha. And it wasn't that many, so therefore you did it. Now my kids have about 100 first cousins from both sides, probably at least 100 first cousins. I'm not 100, I'm exaggerating. But pretty much a lot of first cousins, right? So if you have everyone, you have 1,000 people before you start inviting your friends. You have nobody to invite. So how can you invite them? So therefore you don't invite them anymore. So I don't invite my friend, my family at all. I don't have anything there. And it's not so funny. We were talking once by Shidduchen. So you make the Shabbos Sheva brachas. So I've heard of a family that had, I think, 15 or 18 kids. So they tell the other side that we want you to know that in there is included that we expect everybody to be invited for the Shabbos Sheva brachas. That's another suttah. It's another $5,000. No stuff over there. But I've done this point of understanding that it's not just the chasana. Now you have to have the Shabbos Sheva brachas. Have a good Shabbos, everybody. These should be our biggest sorrows. We should all have these sorrows.
What's Reuven's question on